Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 18. Mark Waid writing with Travis Moore on the art. So, this is a flashback story, which is funny to say because the regular book's always set in the past anyway, but this is set further in the past because this is the first time Batman and Superman work together. Mark Waid's getting to insert his own version of a big bit of continuity. So the story revolves around the Riddler, who leaves like a weird message on one of his crime scenes, and when Clark sees it, he realizes it's Kryptonian, and that makes him want to come to Gotham. Later on, there's a comment that implies that Batman's been operating for about a year. So, yeah, sure enough, Superman goes to Gotham and talks to Jim Gordon, asks for what he knows about what's going on. And then quite quickly, Batman's eavesdropping on that conversation, and they have a bit of a conversation. And that stuff's really fun because like they don't reveal who they are yet. Superman makes a point of saying that he's respecting his privacy but not just looking through his mask, and Batman's like, well, you know, I've been keeping track of you, and you seem to mostly be quiet during like US office hours, so that implies you've got a day job. You tend to like, he starts like just picking at things, and it's like, you know, your accent, you sound like you're from Kansas. It's like, oh, like he's nailing this. Like he's just getting all these things right. But people are disappearing. That's the big thing that's happening, other than the Riddler stuff, is that random civilians are fading away into nothing. Kind of like that episode of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Out of Mind, Out of Sight, starring Clea DuVall from season 1.
That's the first one I remember watching, was that episode.
Very nice.
So,
very nice.
Yeah.
So, you know, all fine and well. They catch a couple of villains. What is it? Spellbinder and Magpie. Are up to no good. And this is really just a few pages to really enjoy the Travis Moore art, which, while, you know, we don't have Dan Moore on this book anymore, the art here is very good.
Yeah, I think it's Superman that's punching up through the manhole cover.
Yeah.
Right, to stop the car. That's a fun little piece. Or he grabs the car as he punches up through it, you know. Yeah,
and the simple little colouring thing is that the background there is yellow, so his blue sleeve really pops, because they're contrasting colours. Just a simple little thing. You know, Batman's got more of a blue vibe to his like suit. He's got kind of the old school sort of dark part of his cowl, but the rest of it's more blue. So they're going for an old school vibe, and it's all very very good. Batman says that he'll know how to reach him, and sure enough, he basically just puts in a request to see Clark Kent. And this is after Alfred disappears. Alfred's the next victim, where he fades away into nothing. So he gets desperate, he calls for Clark to offer an interview, and then immediately Bruce starts talking about how he's Superman, and Clark tries to play coy, like, oh no, you're not right. And Bruce has got all this evidence to back it up. He's been tracking flight patterns. The two most common places he flies to are the Daily Planet building and his apartment building. It's like, you're Clark Kent. So that's when Clark finally looks through the floor and sees the Batcave, and everything's on the table. And it's like, you know, so, yeah. And Bruce's, like, argument for just telling him is kind of interesting. He's like, look, you know, things are getting serious and whatnot, but honestly, I'm not going to start wearing a lead cowl, alright? So, like, we might as well just have this on the table so that we can form some kind of partnership. Not that he wants to work together, because Batman doesn't like working with people.
No.
At least not yet, because it's the early days of Batman. But,
right.
Yeah. So, yeah, they get another Riddler message at a memorial, which leads them to a location. Riddler is actually quite scared, though. He's seemingly scared by some shadowy figure who's kind of like a phantom. And the big reveal is that this villain's a Kryptonian. Unsurprising because of the Kryptonian language. But it turns out to be Jack Sewer, who has escaped the Phantom Zone and sends Batman into the Phantom Zone. So all these people who've been fading away, they're fading into the Phantom Zone. That's what the reveal is at the end. And Jack Sewer's got Superman by the neck, and Batman is off in the Phantom Zone, and that's the big cliffhanger ending. This was really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The art is really good. It pops. The colors really pop. It's got the bold, you know, reds and blues. It's got all that stuff. Riddler's green really sticks out. just the fun of them interacting for the first time, and Waid just poking at the fun of how Batman's basically just figured out who he is already. Superman obviously can use his powers to figure out who Batman is as soon as he wants to. Just all these little things are the first times is a lot of fun. I will say, Batman's already got that dinosaur in the cave though.
Yeah.
So Waid's saying that in canon that was in his first year operating as Batman. That's a bold choice.
So it goes the origin in year one that Miller did, right?
Yes.
And then immediately after that's the dinosaur story.
It must be. Based on what we're seeing here, it must be.
Or Travis Moore just wanted to draw the dinosaur in the cave.
I mean, that's the more likely option, yeah. Is that.
I will say, not having finished this, only getting through the first third or so, coming back and looking at that through the art with more, there's just some really striking images here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Clark in the Bat Cave when he shows that he's Superman, right? It looks straight out of one of the movies, you know, from the Christopher Reeve. And then them in broad daylight, Batman and Superman reading the Gotham Memorial thing. Just, it's so Silver Age and silly. Like, but Moore really makes it work. Like, there's a certain like heaviness to his art that it doesn't seem completely out of hand. So
yeah, no, that stuff's good. I think, you know, I think the transition to Moore and whoever else we've had since Mora they switched to the other book is basically, it's been so smooth and it's kept the feeling and the style, even though it doesn't look like Dan Mora art. It doesn't, but it's keeping that ultra clean Silver Age vibe going.
Yeah, and
the layouts are still really good. And like the colors do pop. Like, see when you get to that first page where you see the Riddler, the purple and the green pop so much because we've barely had any of those colors, so they really stick out as feeling different. Because, you know, when Superman and Batman, it's all blue and a bit of red and yellow. You know, like everything's kind of been in that color palette up until that point, so he really sticks out as being different. You know, although now that I'm skimming through the book again, Jim Gordon's tie is green, so there's a little bit of green elsewhere, but not much. It's very limited.
Yeah.
So, you know, I appreciate that. And hell, even Gordon talking to Superman, you know, and him feeling weird about it. Actually, there's a little joke here where Gordon says he's got no way to signal Batman, and then sort of like pauses and goes, that's not a bad idea. So Waid's also establishing that the bat signal doesn't exist until at least a year after Batman comes on the scene.
Which would make sense, though, because I think the police would want to wait that out, right?
Yeah. Thinking about it, I don't think year one has that at the end. Obviously, Batman Begins does, but that's a movie, that's different.
Right.
Long Halloween definitely does, and that's meant to be like not a year two story, but it's meant to be early, like in the early years.
Right.
So
yeah, because it's Bruce teaming up with Gordon and Dent to you know, to make a.
At the same time, though, there's quite a big rogues gallery already formed, so it has to be a couple of years in at least. But yeah, it's just an interesting little detail that you threw in there that there's no bat signal yet. But I get the feeling between this and like Teen Titans, which is also set in like the Silver Age sort of time period, it does just kind of feel like they've given Waid carte blanche to just see that era you love referencing. Why don't you just go write multiple books in that era and just do but modernize it a bit? But typically you're just doing that part of the timeline and go nuts. Just don't contradict anything too badly. And he's been let loose. I like this a lot.
Yeah,
this is really good.
Real quick, do you know why Jax Ur was put into the Phantom Zone? Do you know the reason?
Off the top of my head?
Yep.
I don't remember. I bet I know it when you tell me it though.
Yep. So he conducted an experiment that destroyed one of Krypton's moons. And so, you know, Jor-El was forced to use the Phantom Zone technology to put him in there because that was the fate that the Science Council had determined for him.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep, because he killed 500 people when that were living on that moon.
So he's a Kryptonian terrorist, basically. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, but he wasn't it says here he was an immoral and criminally deviant scientist. So yeah, you know, I don't think there was any, you know, do this or I'll blow the moon up. He was just like, hey, watch me blow that moon up.
Yeah, that by the way, that full page spread when Superman gets punched out of the ship by him.
So good.
Yeah, just before it reveals who it is. Again, it's another fantastic page, another fantastic panel, even.
Yep.
Just really gorgeous. So yeah. And for color scheme reasons, I like that Jack Stewart also wears green because it just makes him side with the villain side. Not that green's always a bad color, of course, but just in the context of this issue, it kind of represents.
It ties them together.
Yeah. So neat, really good. What are you giving World's Finest, Matt?
Oh, okay. Judging from going through there and the story that I like, I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Yeah, I agree. 8.5. That's very good. It's a really fun classic Superman Batman romp. And I think it's benefiting from being quite simple versus because I think some of the previous arcs that I've enjoyed in this have maybe suffered a little bit from like overly complex, where there's like all this backstory to set up and like all these guest characters also there. This one being simpler because there's no Robin or Supergirl around or no Doom Patrol, even though I like all those characters and I like seeing them. It's making this one feel a bit more streamlined, which is nice.